Hi, I'm Emma. Tell me, do your parents support you in your hobbies and your dreams? Or do they forbid everything in the world and decide how you will live? My mother is a very strict woman who controls my every move. Unlike my dad, to whom I tell everything because he always supports me. And my mother is even against the fact that I play in a rock band with Lisa, my best friend, considering it nonsense. How can that be? I decided that I would prove to her that this was not just nonsense because my favorite band, Night Guards, was coming to our city and they announced that whoever sent them the coolest video with their performance would open for them. Super! That was all I needed! I was also happy with my mother's news that she was promoted at work, which meant she would have to work more. Hooray! It meant that she would control me less, and I would be able to rehearse as much as I wanted to. But even then, she managed to break me off. Man, before leaving on a business trip, she loaded me with so much work around the house that I could only dream of recording a music video. I worked like a slave for 4 days until Lisa called me and asked me to a party. She said there would be a lot of college kids there and that we could use this party to record a music video. Of course, I agreed and ran to my father to ask for permission, telling him about my dreams and the competition. My father supported me, as always. He let me go, but on one condition. I had to call and ask my mother for permission. As if I could just do that. This was a complete failure. So I lied, saying that I would definitely call, and I left, not having fulfilled my promise. Do your parents let you go to night parties with friends? The party was fun. We did a great performance and our friends made a video of it. After that, a guy from college, Jackson, came up to me and said that I was a very cool singer. I liked him immediately. We chatted for 2 hours and Jackson took my number and then asked me to slow dance. Something had obviously sparked between us. And now, having fun with Jackson, I noticed the formidable figure of my mother. It turned out that she had arrived earlier and found out about the party. My mother started yelling at me in front of everyone. I was too ashamed to say a word. Grabbing my arm, she pulled me into the car. All the way, she scolded me for wasting my time on some nonsense and rock parties. I tried to explain to her that by performing, I owned my guitar skills so that I didn't screw up on stage. But my mother said that it would be better if I continued to study piano. I studied, only the piano was not for myself and rock music really inspired me. But she wouldn't even listen to me. Therefore, in fear that I would be punished, I did not dare to tell her about the contest and the clip. At home, the scandal continued. My father realized that I didn't keep my promise and didn't call my mother, but he decided to stand up for me and said that it was his fault and he should have called her. He wanted to tell her about the contest, but I made it clear with my gestures that no, not now. After a couple of hours, my mother calmed down, but punished me for disobedience by forcing me to clean the garage. And it was so dirty that I could spend my whole life cleaning it. I just went to my room in silence, not understanding why I was being punished. Trying to somehow calm down, I asked my friends to send me a video from the party and edited our performance all night. The next day, Lisa and I sent our video to Night Guards. They almost immediately wrote that this was the best performance of all the ones they've gotten and invited us to open for them. Happily, I ran to tell my parents about it. After all, seeing my achievements, my mother would not judge me and would support me. After watching the clip and learning about the victory in the competition, my father hugged me and congratulated me, saying that he always believed in me. My mother, though restrained, also praised me. So I safely asked my parents to let me open for the band. But my mother, as always, ruined everything. She said that she had a lot of work to do and my father had already called a repairman to do the roof for that day. So they were busy and couldn't come with me. And if they couldn't go, then I wouldn't go to a place like this alone because I was only 16. My father tried to help me, said he could defer the repair, but she stood firm. At this point, my patience ran out and I yelled at my mother for the first time, accusing her of hating me and my passion for rock music. I ran into the room, not paying attention to the words of my parents. In the morning, I got a call from Jackson asking me out to a movie. I agreed, But then I looked back and realized that there was still a lot of work to do in the garage. I was so angry at my mother and her inhibitions that I just gave up and went on a date. We watched movies, walked, had fun, and even kissed. Oh my god. At the end of the day, Jackson suggested that I start dating him. It was so quick and unexpected, we barely knew each other. But then I remembered my mother, her reproaches and hatred for everything I did, and I agreed to be Jackson's girlfriend. I felt safe with him. At home, I immediately noticed that someone was opening my messages on the computer. Who else could it be besides my mom? I was furious. I wanted to tell her everything, but she told me, as usual, that I went out with an older guy and didn't clean the garage, so now I was grounded for a week. My father tried to protect me and said that reading other people's messages was bad. He was always on my side. But my mother also snapped at him, saying that he was to blame for my dissolute lifestyle. I was fine, but she didn't dare touch my father, so I couldn't stand it. Called her a tyrant who was ruining both of our lives, took my guitar, my backpack, and left the house. My father tried to catch up with me, but to no avail. I called Lisa and told her what had happened. My friend offered to let me stay with her, especially since her parents were on vacation. Maybe my mother would be scared and calm down. I told my father I was safe, but I wasn't coming home yet. The next day, I went for a walk with Jackson. We drove his car late into the night, and at the end of the day, we watched the sunset from the top of the city. I had never felt so good, but apparently, all these moves were not my thing, and when we went back down, I got seasick and threw up in Jackson's car. And instead of helping me, he started swearing, said it was his parents' car so he wouldn't take me home, but would go to the car wash. I had to walk all the way to Lisa. I felt so bad and sad that Jackson had done this to me. Maybe I shouldn't be this way to my parents? No, it was my mother's fault. With her restrictions and stupid rules, she has driven me to a dead end. When I came to Lisa, she said that my parents had called her. I was upset, but the nausea didn't go away. So I called my father and told him everything and asked for help. He comforted me and said that he would be back soon. However, he did not come alone, but with my mother. She was furious, and when she found out that Jackson was from that party, she took me home. At home, I started to feel sick again. My father began to help me, and my mother took the guitar and locked it in the closet, saying that now I would only study piano, no rock. My father said that she was overreacting with her punishments. They began to argue with each other and accuse each other of bad parenting. Of course, I sided with my father because he supported my dreams. Unlike my mother, she was a real tyrant. My mother said that I was not going to get anything serious in music and that these parties were just an excuse for my laziness. I couldn't stand it and reminded my mother again that she was just jealous of me because she worked like hell without a personal life and dreams, unlike me. If that was why she hated me, then she should have left me in the hospital, so why ruin both of our lives? My mother began to cry and ran into the room. I was happy to win. But then I noticed my father's stern gaze. He told me that she worked so hard and took a promotion just to save up for the college I wanted. I was in shock. It was so expensive, and my mother said last year that they couldn't afford such an expensive tuition. My father sent me to my room and told me that he was disappointed in my behavior. At night, Jackson called and asked for money for cleaning the car, and Lisa said that my mother was to blame for everything. I started to cry and realized that I was confused. I got up early, made breakfast, and cleaned the house. I blacklisted Jackson and asked Lisa not to judge my mother. Seeing the broken state of my mother, I suggested that my parents take a vacation and go to rest together. She hugged me, apologized for being too strict, and agreed to take me to the performance. I promised that in the future I would be more reasonable and go to the college of my dreams. Subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss new stories.